I'm joined now by retired Australian Army General and Senior Fellow at the Washington-based Centre for Strategic and International Studies, Mick Ryan. Mick, good afternoon. So Keir Starmer said the relationship between the UK and the US is very important. He said these talks were productive. So what has the UK gotten out of this meeting with the President?
Well, I think what it's got first and foremost is a personal relationship with the President of the United States. I think it's more important than ever that national leaders be able to engage President Trump directly, and it's something the Australian government should be looking at doing as soon as possible. But more than that, in the Ukraine war, you've got a commitment from the American president to meet with President Zelensky. Hopefully they'll bury the hatchet at their next meeting. And with this big agreement on minerals, it really gives the United States a deeper interest in defending Ukraine rather than leaving it to the predatory Russians.
Yeah, we'll get to more on Ukraine in just a second, but one question that Donald Trump was asked was about the AUKUS agreement. There's been a lot said about this. He sort of asked for clarification when he was asked about AUKUS. Is that something that you think Canberra or Downing Street will be concerned about at all?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this was a meeting focused on Britain and Ukraine, so he was throwing a curveball with this one, but he recovered quickly. He talked about Australia at least once as a good partner, so I don't think we have anything to worry about here.
So this meeting with Sir Keir Starmer, he's the second leader to visit the White House in the past week. We saw obviously that the French President Emmanuel Macron visited recently as well. They've both really been pushing for US support in peacekeeping in Ukraine. How successful do you think they've been in that?
Well, they've had a degree of success so far from the American side. The Americans support the Europeans putting their troops in. They have for some time now. Now, whether they get security guarantees from the Americans is another thing. The US has already said those troops won't be covered by Article 5 in NATO, but they could be subject to some kind of support from the Americans for that force if it goes in. We should note also that Putin said he will not do a deal that involves peacekeepers on the ground.
Volodymyr Zelensky is next in line to meet with the President. We saw Donald Trump seemingly forget that he'd called President Zelensky a dictator. He also has praised Ukraine's army for being brave. What do you think is behind this apparent change in tune?
Well, as I referred to, I hope, we're going to see burying the hatchet. The reason he called the Ukrainians brave is because they are brave. I mean, the facts speak for themselves over the last 10 years, 11 years since the first Russian invasion. Hopefully this means he's better inclined to have a positive relationship with President Zelensky and the Ukrainian government more broadly. And let's just hope none of the Ukraine doubters in his administration get into his ear before that meeting next week.
What do you expect will come out of that meeting between the Ukrainian president and the US president? You spoke earlier there about perhaps the US being more inclined to want to protect the mineral resources in Ukraine.
Yeah, I think that will be an outcome. We already know the text of that agreement, and whilst ostensibly it doesn't mean major commitments from both sides, there is a level of commitment there to help Ukraine exploit its mineral resources without being overly predatory, and also negotiate the details of that. I think we'll see other agreements and other discussions that we may not have thought about just yet. And, a great outcome would be a commitment from the Americans for an additional military aid package.